looked a bit mixed since they returned after the break. First game back away at City, a 5-0 drubbing where they looked particularly poor. But then against Watford 3 days later, it was like a completely different side. They turned it around, they played some nice football, they scored a lovely goal, and they managed to deal with everything that Watford threw at them as well. Ben Mee was solid at the back, probably the man of the match. Looked a bit leggy in places and not much options off the bench, so they might get tired after a few games. Putting the City game aside, the Watford game was much more promising. Obviously, the City game was overshadowed by the banner that was flown over the stadium at the start of the match. But the reaction from the club has been absolutely fantastic. The captain, Ben Mee, came out straight away speaking to the Sky cameras and didn't want to talk about the match. He just wanted to completely condemn the banner, and the club followed the next day with a very strong statement assuring them that the people responsible for it would receive lifetime bans from the club. So very happy with the way the club has responded to that. Rumours about Dyche seem to come round quite often really, and we've learned to ignore a lot of it because a lot of it is rumour mongering really. I see him as a very low risk and risk averse kind of person in general. Both in the way he manages his team and his match tactics. So I don't see him taking a huge risk with his own career unnecessarily. However, these last 2 weeks have also brought with it a lot of unrest, probably the most unrest we've seen between Dyche and the board at Burnley over the problems with players whose contracts are running out this week. We've seen Jeff Hendrick, a very good servant to the club, not be able to agree a deal. Not quite sure for certain what that was. Possibly that he wanted too much money that the board weren't willing to pay, but Dyche really wanted him to stay, so they've kind of come to blows over that. Also Phil Bardsley, another great servant, managed to find a solution with him, thankfully, but 4 players are leaving the club this week. Joe Hart, Aaron Lennon, Adam Legstins and Jeff Hendrick. And with the problem with the EFL loanees not being able to come back and play for Premier League parent clubs, it's leaving us quite short on players. He's not been able to name a full 9 on a bench, and the ones that are on there, a lot of them are academy players and not Premier League experience. So it's worrying times. He will probably move on at some point for a bigger club with more money to spend, but with that quite often comes owners that are very quick to pull the trigger on a manager, and that's the aspect that I don't see him going for just yet. The result of City's tribunal will determine whether 8th opens up. We are 11th now at the minute, so there's only a couple of places between us. However, last time I went into Europe, the small squad struggled, and that was with preparation and more players on the books. At the minute, if we got a European spot, it could just have a huge impact on our season. So at this point, Burnley fans may be thinking might not be a great idea for us to have to deal with that, bearing in mind that we might be working on a skeleton squad. It might be yet again another poison chalice, and even more so than last time round. Well, it's going to be tight, I think. It's an away match for us. Dyche will probably approach it a lot more cautiously than he did against Watford. He'll want to still be in the game at half time, 0-0, 1-0 either way. But we don't necessarily need the points. We're not fighting relegation. So I'm going to go maybe a 1-1.